Hello, everyone. My name is Deepak, and I'm going to talk about how to engage your audience with gamification. Uh, Before we start, I would like to give my introduction, which is my experiences with engagement and growth. I started working with product and growth back in 2016. And I started with a startup called Upgrad, which provides online courses for professionals. Here, I think because we are providing premium courses, the focus was more on revenue growth, and I drove the revenue growth 10x in next 2 years. After that, I moved to MX Player. MX Player, for those of you who don't know, is a VLC media player for Android. And we were trying to build a OTT platform on top of it. My primary responsibility was to drive the DAU growth for MX Player. And I worked there for a year. Again, we looked into DAO growth. We grew to millions of users. And then last year, I moved to Flipkart, where I'm leading Flipkart Games and Gamification product. And I think what we are going to talk about is more related to Flipkart and my previous experience with growth, right? Uh, so what we are going to cover in this session is one is what is gamification, all right? And then what do you need to actually build gamification in your product? And the third thing is gamification in context of e-commerce and offline commerce, because most of the audience that is going to join us today or that has joined today is actually operating in e-commerce or offline commerce, right? And finally, kind of tying it all up, like if you want to build gamification, what are the cardinal rules that you have to follow to build for gamification, right? So these are the 4 sections that we are going to cover. Starting with what is gamification. Gamification is nothing but applying game design principles to design product and experiences. What I mean by that is when you play a game, right, there are certain components in games which actually excite people, which bring different emotions, not just positive emotions, also negative emotions. Like you get frustrated because you cannot cross a level and all that, right? You also get rewarded a lot for participating in games, crossing levels. You get that delight. You also get some coins, some currencies, etc., right? You also get some upgrades. So all those, I think if you play enough games, you start to see a lot of similarities between games. And that is because the design principles of games are almost the same, right? Gamification is taking these design principles and then applying them to commerce or any product that you are building, right? Uh, so when we started with gamification, even when I started with gamification, what happened is I started with saying that, okay, we'll build a leaderboard, we'll build some badges, we'll give people points, we'll give people some coins, etc., etc. That is where most people start. But that is not gamification, because a lot of times what happens is you create a leaderboard, you create a point system, you create badge system, and then see people are not excited by that, right? Because that in itself is not gamification. There's a term for that which is called pointsification, which is you are giving people points just for the sake of it because you want to do gamification. So gamification is not pointsification. Pointsification is a mechanic which can be used in gamification, but gamification is much more than that. And we are going to talk about that. Just because we are discussing just the theory about gamification, just providing an example of gamification. So one example is Snapchat streaks, right? Now, for those of you who haven't used Snapchat, because I know it's a Gen Z product, right? In Snapchat, when you are chatting with a friend or when you are sending them snaps, is what they call them. Uh, Over time, like it records uh, how many days in continuity you are sending them a snap, right? And that becomes a streak. So streak, for a simple definition, is you keep doing the same thing every day. That is a streak. You keep running for 100 days, that's a 100-day streak. And games actually use it a lot. Like games actually, if you open, a lot of games have like day 1 you get this, day 2 you get this, day 3 you get this, day 4 you get this, and so on and so forth, right? So people took that streaks concept and actually applied it to Snapchat and said that because you keep chatting to your friends every day, why not kind of keep track of that and say that, oh, this is a very close friend of you because you have a 500 days streak with him or her, right? So in a way, like actually at one point, teenagers were uh, kind of taking pride in like how longer their streaks with their friends were, and they were sharing it with other people because that's a proof of friendship, right? Strange, but yeah, like that's gamification for you. You take streaks concept from games and apply it into a chat platform or social media platform. Now coming to essential ingredients, right? Uh, the essential ingredients of gamification are fivefold. The first is there should be goals which are rewarding. Like I told you already, pointsification is not gamification. You need to have goals which can excite users, right? The second is it should create strong emotions, right? So, for example, if people are just seeing some points which you are giving through your app or website, and they're not excited about it, it's not going to work, right? The third is in all games are defined by rules and constraints. Like soccer has a particular rule. Cricket in India, which is played very popularly, has certain rules. So all the games have rules and constraints, and the gamification that you are building should also have rules and constraints. They actually make it fun for users to actually solve some sort of puzzle or some sort of challenge, so that they feel good about that, right? The fourth is it should be neither too easy nor too hard. If it is too easy, people will question why they're wasting their time here. If it is too hard, they will question why they're wasting their time here. Just in not in the same way. If it is too hard, people will get frustrated and leave. If it's too easy, they will get bored and leave. Right. So there is a uh, there is a magic space where the game should gamification should exist, and we'll talk more about this later. And the fifth one is you should delight through visual aesthetics, right? Delight users through visual aesthetics. uh, those are the five ingredients of gamification. We are going to discuss each of them in detail in fourth section. But before that, let me focus more on why is it important. Why are we talking about gamification in context of growing e-commerce or offline commerce? So the biggest example, I think, the biggest success of this era has been Pinduoduo Orchard, right? So Pinduoduo is a company out of China. Uh, and for last 10 to 15 years there were like two biggest e-commerce companies out of China. One was Alibaba, and almost everybody knows it, and second, which is not so popularly known but still known very well in Southeast Asia, is JD.com, right? And these two companies had kind of duopoly on the market. And then in 2016, a Google engineer who was also a game developer at some point, right, uh, built this Pinduoduo app, which was built as a commerce app, but a lot of gamification constructs were built in it. And one of the most popular ones was Pinduoduo Orchard, which is you choose your own fruit. You enter this mini game. You choose your own fruit to grow, and then every day you come, you water it, just like you grow a tree in offline world. You grow the tree in online world by earning some droplets, uh, and you earn these droplets by doing different work. So you check some offers, you go to some deals, you buy something, you get some droplets and other things, and you keep watering the plant, it keeps growing. And the master stroke that they did as a third step was like they actually sent fruit baskets to people who had harvested a particular tree, right? So if you had grown an orange tree, you received an orange basket, and that is a master stroke in marketing because it creates a lot of word of mouth marketing. It creates a lot of virality, right? Uh, there was a novelty factor, but if you see, right, there is a goal at the end that is very rewarding. It also creates a very strong emotion because over time you start feeling that, oh, you have grown the tree so much, you're feeling good about yourself. You ask a friend who was trying to grow a tree how big their tree is and all that, and they tell you that, oh, I have missed watering it for a couple of days and now it's shorter. So that emotional investment is there in doing this. And then there are rules and constraints. You have to come every day, you have to water it out and all that. So rules and constraints are you can earn water by doing this, this, and this, right? and it's neither too easy, not too hard. It's not like uh, you can visit it once a month and you'll be able to grow a tree, which is something that a lot of people can do. uh, Neither is it like too hard for somebody who is not very aware uh, of smartphones. Even for them, they'll be able to do it. And which is the reason I think the number of daily active users on this particular mini game within Pinduoduo app was around 11 million daily active users. Now, that's a huge number. Like there are apps which very popular apps which actually fight very hard to get this 11 million daily active users number. So that's a master kind of, that's a very good study um, in how gamification can be applied in commerce, right? Uh, Moving forward, I think it is true that, okay, this worked for Pinduoduo, but are there similar stories that actually scaled, right? And that is a question, that is a good question to ask, because if it can be replicated across companies, across apps, maybe we have gotten something which is very interesting and can be applied in our context also, right? So, so this is a Mary Meeker is very famous for internet trends. Like she publishes internet trends once every year, right? And very good insights. Like if you haven't checked it, go check it. Every year, I think this is one of the few reports that I look forward to. And in 2019 reports, she mentioned something like the China's innovation actually lies at games driving the transformation of payments, e-commerce, retail, education, right? And this is a very strong assertion, which is like the innovation is driven by games in payment, e-commerce, retail, education, some of the biggest sectors, right? But if you look closely, right, like Pinduoduo, how it plays with gamification or games is not by just a singular game, which is a Pinduoduo Orchard that we talked about, which has 11 million daily active users. But they actually, the whole name is derived like pin means together, duo means more. And the way they publicize it is together, more savings, more fun. More fun is something which actually is their tagline, right? And if you see the other things that they have built, right? So one of the things that they built was Price Chop, which is by inviting friends through a custom link, you can chop the price of what you want to buy. They don't have to buy it. They just have to come and click on key, okay, give this person a discount. And the other person gets a discount, right? So what this did was, because the social graph is very thick in tier 2, tier 3 cities in both China and India, what it did in China was people were inviting their friends on WeChat, and then those people were actually shopping price, and they were experiencing Pinduoduo, and they were like, okay, let me check what this app is, right? So it actually gave a very strong growth for Pinduoduo. The other thing is daily check-ins, right? Which is like you can come daily and you can check in, click on the check-in button, and you can get some rewards, right? Again, something which is derived from games, and we talked about streaks in Snapchat. So something which is very common in games. The third is team purchase, which is like you collaborate with others, and collaborative games are there. Like you build cities by collaborating with people and all that, right? So they said you collaborate with other people in your community, and if you bring 25 people in your community, or 10 people or 15 people, we'll give you some mass discount, right? And it actually fits into their business also, because they were supplying grocery, and think of it like from a single building, if 15 people are buying, the supplier will mostly say, okay, I can give some discounts, right? So that works. Fourth is they also introduced loyalty programs. Now loyalty programs is something which I think has been happening for banks and for retail companies for a long time, right? And they also kind of created the loyalty program because it's a no-brainer in commerce. And not only, and they actually went through just the way like credit cards are built. Like there are tiers, right? You can have uh, gold, you can have silver, you can have platinum, and so on and so forth. So even in the loyalty program, they actually tiered the whole program. So one was like free pass card, right? Which is you can get team purchase discounts without forming a team. So if you have a free pass card, you have a brand black card, right? Which is from its very name, like it's something which incentivizes brand discounts for regular reviewers. Like if you go and review, write 2-3 reviews for a brand, or like for Pinduoduo, they'll give you brand black card. And then there is brand card, which is like, you have a brand, I have a brand card, and I can share it with my wife, my friend, and they can get some brand discounts, right? So if you see, it's actually very interesting thing that they have built. The whole entire app, they have built 5, 6, 10 constructs, which are gamification constructs, which work on the principles of game design, and which bring a lot of customers, a lot of social through the social graph, and otherwise, like it brings a lot of customers, and it also keeps bringing them back again and again through daily check-ins and Pinduoduo Orchard and all that, right? And that's why like other apps in China also followed the suit. Like these are the screenshots of Pinduoduo, JD.com, Taobao, right? And all three have built like grow a tree. So this is a proof that this is actually working for all apps in China. And the other proof is, if you see the top shopping apps worldwide, this is December 2019 data, right? What you'll figure out is 8 out of these 10 shopping, and this is an exercise I did myself because I wanted to see if globally e-commerce is actually adopting gamification. 8 out of these 10 apps actually use gamification. So uh, and the others are also going to do it very soon. Like I think Mercado Libre is the only one which I could not find a gamification on. But other than that, even Amazon has started doing, at least in India, it has started doing daily quizzes and all that, right? So 8 to 9 of 10, like which is 80-90% of the top 10 shopping apps are actually using gamification to grow. So yeah, I think you should pay attention to this trend. Now this is the online commerce. In offline chains also, like time and again, like companies have built gamification very well. So like Domino's in 2015, they created something, a challenge called Pizza Legend, where you can create a pizza, you can name it. So you can come with any quirky names, and then you can share it, right? And obviously, Domino's social media team will also try to promote if it gets good response. And the good thing that happened is it led to a lot of activation of users, right? Around 50% of pizza eaters became aware of Pizza Legends. Around 200,000, 2 lakh legends were created, and 26% of them were purchased, right? And the organic social reach increased by 41% for like Domino's in this period. Now, Domino's is already very popular. Like moving something by 41% is a big deal, right? And I'm sure like Domino's got a lot of good sentiment from the community. Like people love eating pizzas. Like it is one of the most, uh, I think, most popular foods, right? So kind of increasing any metric in that segment is very hard, but but they actually saw a very good response because of gamification, right? So now coming to the last part, which is how do you build gamification? And there are five elements that I discussed first on gamification, right? Now I'm going to discuss them in detail. The first one is study how games work, right? Which is all games are based on a simple loop, which is you do an action, you get some reward, and then there is a progress. Like you kill monsters, you get gold, you buy upgrades. In Candy Crush, you uh, solve a puzzle, you get some rewards like a score, high score, or anything, and then you move to the next level. Same for Angry Birds, right? So all the games have action, reward, progress loop. So even gamification should have this simple loop built into it. The second is actually creating strong emotions. So this is actually Octalysis framework, which is very popular in gamification. And I would ask you to go search it and read it, because it actually gives you a good sense of what are different emotions that can arise when people are playing games. Uh, and the emotions are, these actually don't cover all the emotions. The emotions are much higher than these. But that's a discussion for some other day. But this will get you started, right? So, and even in these emotions, there is a white hat and black hat. Like there are some emotions which you can argue whether they're ethical or not, right? And then there are some emotions which appear in an analytical brain, which is left brain, and then in creative brain, which is right brain. So, for example, something which is good, white hat is good, and something which is more addressing the meaning and creative brain, which is right brain, is meaning. What is the meaning of what I'm doing? Do I feel empowered? Do I gain social influence? Like these are all good ways to good emotions to have, right? uh, if you go into black hat domain for right brain, right, it will be unpredictability or anticipation. And this is something that which a lot of games and gamification tactics gets built on, which is you get a mystery box and you don't know what is in there. So you get curious, you open it and all that. Another is avoidance, which is loss aversion. So just when you go to Starbucks for the first time, they give you a card and they punch the first thing, and then you have to move to 10th drink to get a free drink, right? So you have already spent some money somewhere, and you will hate losing it. So which is a loss aversion. We don't like losing something which we have gained. And a lot of the gamification tactics rely on giving you something and then telling you that it will be taken away if you don't complete the whole thing, right? Same for, I think, left brain, which is more analytical, and black hat is scarcity, which is you going to Amazon and seeing that only 2 items left is scarcity. It might not be true because only 2 items in stocks uh, is not possible for a very popular product, right? And somebody is buying like 2 to 3 items of the same product every minute on Amazon, right? So that's a black hat and left brain. White hat and left brain is more around ownership. You are being analytical around gaining something, winning something, and all that sense of achievement, which is accomplishment and all that. So these are, I think, Octalysis framework, very good framework. I would suggest you go and study it. So create one of these emotions or more of these emotions. The third is keep business objectives clear, right? Which is like in Starbucks, for example, you get every 10th drink, let's say, free. The business objective is very clear. They want to bring you back to Starbucks. They want to make you to loyal customer and all that. And they are following that, right? The second is this Pinduoduo orchard. Now, one can think that, oh, for coming daily, you are giving me these rewards and all that. That it's not that simple. See, sometimes to earn water, you have to go and check discounts. You have to check some pages in Pinduoduo. And a lot of times, so some of the people, not all people, but let's say 30, 40 or 100 people who go and check these pages, they find some interesting deals and they end up making a transaction. So it keeps their business growing. The simple tree is actually helping them grow their business. And it's also keeping the brand on top of your mind, which means that when you think about buying something, it will reappear in your mind and you'll go there and you'll buy something. Uh, then there is make it neither too easy nor too hard. I think we already discussed this earlier. But to kind of put it in a framework, like there are two axes on which you are evaluating any particular action item. One is the challenges, how challenging it is. And second is what are your skills. So for example, playing a hardcore game like PUBG. Now, for a person who is very highly skilled in playing games, it might not be very challenging. But for a person who just uses WhatsApp, not very digitally aware, it is something which will lead to a lot of anxiety if you ask them to play that game, right? So depending, because consumers vary in their needs and preferences and their digital education, uh, I think you have to be very wary of designing something which actually might be very easy for you, which might be very easy for you, but might be very difficult for a lot of your users. So you have to figure out who the users are, and then you have to create an optimal challenge for them, which is something where they can operate in a flow, right? And finally, delight. Like all these gaming apps have a lot of delightful animations, right? And if you go like some of the apps that have real life apps that have followed suit is something like a Google Pay in India, right? Or even globally, which is when you pay something, it gives you confetti, it gives you some sort of delight, right? So this is another way to kind of improve your remembrance and gives people a sense of delight in your app. So ultimately, I think to sum it all up, like the first thing is pick goals that are rewarding, which means that it should follow action, reward, progress loop, right? And rewarding for the users. Like in your mind, it might be rewarding, but users don't find it rewarding. So bridge that gap. Second is create strong emotions. Study the 8 core drives, Octalysis framework, and see what emotions are you evoking when you are building this. The third is devise rules and constraints such that they meet your business objectives. Like if you ask people to do something which does not meet your business objectives, there is no point of doing it, right? Uh, the fourth is make it flow, like make it neither too easy nor too hard for the person who is going to do that particular challenge. And the fifth is delight through visual aesthetics, right? It actually helps your brand also, it also helps with remembrance, and it also delights people, right? So yeah, with this, I think I conclude the talk. Last but not the least, if everybody is following this suit, if the top global apps after careful evaluation have started doing this, there's no reason why you should not do it. All right. So evaluate it, study it carefully, and yeah, just give me a message on LinkedIn or Twitter or like any other place if you have any future doubts regarding this. Thank you.